Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. The criminal case styled as Idaho versus Kohberger was a very high-profile case. During the more than 2.5 years that it proceeded through the court system, the case was opened in December of 2022 and was deemed closed on the 23rd of July, 2025. During that 2.5 year period, there were a lot of documents that were filed under seal and hearings that occurred closed to the public. And to fully appreciate just how many documents and things, including evidence, were filed under seal by the parties alone or at certain times, requesting a court order sealing items by stipulation, by agreement between the two, on top of the non-dissemination order that both parties requested on day 4 of the case that was granted that day back in January of 2023, and that remained in effect until mid-July of 2025. Those two facts, the facts that so many items were filed under seal and hearings sealed from the public, on top of the non-dissemination order, created a situation where a very high-profile criminal case that has the potential to set a precedent for other criminal cases was largely not open to the public. And it has now been almost 2 months since the case was deemed closed, and there are still a large number of documents that remain sealed from the public. And based on the process that Judge Stephen J. Hippler implemented a month and a half ago and what's happened since then, it appears that it might not be for another 1.5 years, possibly even 2 years, until the court reaches and finally resolves the documents that were filed at the very beginning of the case that are sealed, including evidence, anything that's related to discovery. Discovery is a request for evidence that one side feels is in the other side's custody, possession, or control. It seems like it is a big ask for the public to be expected to wait so long for this case to finally be, at least in part, unsealed based on the process that the court implemented and what's happened thus far. Recall, a month and a half ago, Judge Hippler entered an order directing both sides within 14 days to provide either their objections to or non-objections to the potential unsealing of a series of documents from June and July of 2025. Both parties waited until the last possible day to file their objections and non-objections. Had they filed those objections and non-objections on day 10, for example, as opposed to day 14 as they did, it would have made the process not as elongated as it's been by them waiting until the last possible day to file documents responsive to a court order concerning the unsealing of items to the public. They did it again when Judge Hippler then issued a second order requesting that they provide justification for the continuing to keep redacted materials from the public rather than unredacting, as they both requested in their responses. They waited until the last possible day to file their responses, and they've done it the third time now, because what the court has done has now moved into phase number 2 of additional documents that are being considered at this time for potential unsealing. But these only go back to April of 2025, because the court's doing what it appears 2 months at a time, asking the parties to provide their objections or non-objections to documents from April and May of 2025. Nothing before that time has, to date, 2 months since this case was closed, even been considered for potential unsealing. So when one looks at the fact that today is the deadline, September 19th, 2025, for the parties to have provided their objections or non-objections to those documents that are under seal, whether they should be unsealed, whether they should continue to be sealed, or if they should be unsealed with redactions, it looks as though they are again waiting until the last possible day, and this time they were given 16 days to respond. There's nothing on the court docket or on the case summary page indicating that as of today, at least, the deadline, anything was filed September 18th or before by either side. At this speed, or lack thereof, in my opinion, it will take many, many months, possibly, and likely a year at least, and even more than that, possibly 2 years, before the court reaches the earliest documents in the case. I'd like to leave you with a closing thought that was brought before the court by the media in one of their appearances in Idaho versus Kohberger. The media coalition had filed a motion, and they wanted to be heard as interested parties regarding the matter of the hearing being sealed and documents associated with one or more of the motions to suppress being sealed to the public. And they submitted this memorandum of law asking to be heard, requesting an opportunity to present argument at or immediately before the January 21st hearing scheduled to happen. Media goes into a long discussion about the First Amendment and the public's right and the press's right to attend criminal proceedings and cite to Supreme Court case law, including the seminal case of Press Enterprise Company versus Superior Court that was a 1986 case, and then arguing that the Supreme Court has extended this First Amendment right of access to criminal proceedings, number one, which have historically been open to the press and public, and two, where the public access plays a significant positive role in the functioning of the particular process in question. I'll leave you to review this document at your leisure. It's available on the docket as the electronic filing stamp from the clerk of court indicates. You can find it filed on January 23rd, 2025. And when considering what the media was arguing here, it just appears that this process, having this criminal proceeding gone and operated under seal from the public and the press for as long as it did, and now on top of it, having this, what appears to be a very long process to determine which, if any, of the documents from the more than 2.5-year criminal proceeding will be unsealed, is, in my opinion, again, a big ask. In my opinion, that I give under that First Amendment, freedom of speech and of the press. If you have any thoughts, any comments, any opinions regarding the matter, please leave them here. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you very much for joining us here today.